Here's how you get around the comic strip. By now, you must have gotten to the main menu, where you got to me, your guide. From the main menu, you have a couple of choices. Choose Intro to get a message from Stan Lee. Press Start Comic Book to start reading from the beginning. If you press Go to Page, you'll be able to type in a page number and go right to that page. If you press Trivia, you can play the trivia game. You'll also see a switch labeled VoiceOver On, Off. Switch it over to Off if you want to skip the action summaries of the pages. Finally, the Character Bios button will take you to the biographies, where you'll get the information on all the characters in the comic. Just click on any of their faces to learn more about them. Once you're at a comic page, you use the Next button to go to the next page, and the Previous button to get to the page before. The Zoom In and Zoom Out buttons will make the picture larger or smaller. There are 3 sizes to check out. The small size is good for seeing the whole page at a time. The big size is a good size for reading, and the huge size is for great eye-popping detail. The Bios button on the control strip will take you to the character information pages. When you get to the character you want, and you decide to go back, you press Done, and you'll get to the main menu of characters. Then press Done again, and you'll get back to the comic page you are on. There's also a Help button on the control strip. Press this to get a summary showing you what buttons do what, in case you forget. Finally, you have your Menu button to get you back to the first main menu screen. You'll see the cursor turn into a hand when you roll the mouse over the comic page in the big-sized page and the huge-sized page. This means you can drag the page around the screen. To drag it, click the mouse somewhere on the page, and with the mouse button down, move the mouse in the direction you want to go. If you move the mouse all the way to the top or bottom of the page and hold it down, the page will scroll automatically. You can also move the page up or down, or in the huge page size, left and right, using the up, down, left and right arrow keys. Meanwhile, keep your eyes peeled for funny symbols on the page. They will appear in selected places throughout the comic. Usually, they will be in the lower left-hand corners of the panels, but sometimes they will be in other spots. You might see an ear, a comic book, or a TV set. Click the mouse twice anywhere in the panels with the symbols. If it's an ear panel, you'll get to hear the action. If it's a TV set, you'll get to see the action with a clip from the TV show. If it's a comic book, it'll take you back through time to another issue of the comic to give you background about the story you're reading. Then you can read the flashback issue just like the main comic, only when you're done, click back and get back to the page you were on before. Of course, when you're done with the comic, you just go back to the main menu and press Quit. Nuff said.
Hi, heroes! Fasten your seatbelts, 'cause Mighty Marvel is about to take you to a new dimension. It's the exciting, interactive dimension where you'll find your favorite Marvel heroes and villains on CD. Right before your eyes, we're about to turn your computer into a fantastic on-screen comic book, which will give you more than 80 pages of dazzling superhero action. Just look at all you're going to get. Your favorite Marvel thrillers with all new computer-enhanced coloring, plus extra backstory pages that weren't included in the original comics. Special panels offering exciting clips from Marvel's top-rated TV animated shows with fantastic interactive sound effects just for you. And would you believe that your own favorite superheroes will personally accompany you through each and every story? How can we give you so much, so fast, so generously? Hey, that's why our name is Marvel. How lucky can you be? You're about to see and hear one of Marvel's greatest stories as an all-new team of superpowered X-Men wage the battle of their lives in a tale that'll boggle your mind. For the first time ever, Wolverine, Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Banshee, Sunfire, and Proudstar, they're gathered together from the four corners of the globe to help Professor Xavier and Cyclops save the original X-Men from the indescribable evil of Krakoa. Then, after you've managed to catch your breath, you'll see and hear the original X-Men risking life and limb in comicdom's most famous locale, the Deadly Danger Room. Plus, the origins of Banshee and Sunfire. Oh, then when you think things can't get any better, you'll witness the first pulse-pounding meeting between the Hulk and Wolverine. I'd tell you more, but I'm too excited to go on.
Marvel Comics presents the new X-Men in Second Genesis, featuring Wolverine, Storm, Thunderbird, Colossus, Banshee, Nightcrawler, and Sunfire. Winseldorf, Germany. A tiny town turned upside down by the appearance of a most unique individual. The blue-skinned mutant Nightcrawler. His outward visage throws the villagers into a panic. They believe him to be a monster. Cornered on a rooftop, Nightcrawler finds himself with no way out. The realization that the terrified villagers would burn down the entire village to destroy him compels Nightcrawler into desperate action. With no alternative, he dives into the throng, fists flying. Eventually, he is overcome by sheer numbers, and the villagers cry for a steak. As the bloodthirsty town people prepare to drive a stake into the heart of Nightcrawler, a single commanding voice rings out in their minds, paralyzing them. The source of this mental command is Professor Xavier. He's looking for mutants, he says, and he wants Nightcrawler to join him. With nothing to lose, the young mutant agrees. In a military installation in Quebec, Canada, Professor Xavier waits for the appearance of the man codenamed Weapon X. When the feisty agent arrives, Xavier reveals that he knows of his recent battle with the Hulk, and that he is a mutant. The professor, it seems, has a desperate need of mutants. The Incredible Hulk in, and now, the Wolverine. In the woods near Quebec, Canada, a battle rages between the Hulk and the beast called Wendigo. Into this fracas leaps Wolverine, claws bared, ready for action.
It's adamantium tasting time, boy!
With the speed and agility of his animal namesake, Wolverine hurtles into battle. Given the physical power of his opponents, Wolverine knows full well that he must keep moving, always eluding their grasp. While the ferocious Canadian finds his adamantium claws cannot pierce the Hulk's hide, he manages to cut Wendigo deeply. Startled by the savage slashing assault of Wolverine, Wendigo stumbles down the hillside, with his opponent pressing the attack all the while. Though much stronger, Wendigo is no match for Wolverine's combat-honed battle skills. The Hulk, in his own simple way, determines that Wolverine, as the enemy of the Wendigo, is his friend, and leaps back into battle himself. The mighty leap of the Hulk brings him into a titanic collision with Wendigo. Still, the beast fights back, pounding the green giant with his hairy fists. Willing to team with the Hulk temporarily, Wolverine distracts Wendigo, leaving an opening for his partner to do what only the Hulk can do. Some of the mightiest muscles on the face of the earth propel Wendigo into a stand of trees. Incredibly, the wood beast is still conscious after the impact, but Wolverine has yet to be reckoned with. The savage fury of his attack is as impressive as it is effective. In an instant, Wendigo is no longer a threat. Legend says that the Wendigo is immortal, and Wolverine realizes the legend must be true, for his claws cut deep, but Wendigo is merely unconscious. Now the Hulk faces Wolverine alone, unsure of what to say to this little man. Before he can think of something, Wolverine lashes out with his claws, and battle is joined anew. Weapon X is intrigued by the possibility of leaving government service behind. He agrees to join Professor Xavier's band of mutants. When a Canadian official protests, Wolverine's deadly claws make it clear that his resignation is effective immediately. Professor Xavier's quest for mutants continues in Nashville, where he recruits old acquaintance Banshee at the Grand Ole Opry. Later, far to the east in Kenya, tribesmen pray to Aurora, the goddess of the storm. In a flash of lightning, the goddess arrives and agrees to bring rain to the tribe's crops. The X-Men in The Wail of the Banshee. The usual noises of morning in New York are suddenly eclipsed by a piercing, high-pitched shriek. Moving at unearthly speeds, a man swoops low over streets filled with deafened bystanders. The incredible figure hurtles directly toward an art gallery, breaking the front window with a subtle shift in his sonic scream. Relaxing the vibrations which surround him, the figure of the Banshee comes into view. With everyone within earshot unconscious, it is child's play for Banshee to steal a painting. In Midtown, the wail of the Banshee places pedestrians in a hypnotic state. Ever the connoisseur, the thief steals only the best tobaccos of the world from a nearby tobacco shop. Unaffected by the scream of the Banshee is a hard-of-hearing clerk who attempts to lock the criminal in the store. At Professor Xavier's school for gifted youngsters, the X-Men are hard at work trying to pick up a sign of Banshee with their mutant-detecting Cerebro device. They get more than they bargained for when the machine registers a signal practically on top of them. Enter Banshee, who shatters the lab window and puts all of the X-Men to sleep. Banshee stands triumphant over his fallen foes, and then radios his partner, the Ogre. Professor Xavier is the real target of this attack, masterminded by Factor 3, who will use his powers to conquer Earth. Before the Ogre can get far with Xavier, he is tripped up by a branch mentally manipulated by Marvel Girl. Banshee uses his sonic abilities to topple the X-Men with a wall of overwhelming oral energy. Banshee and the ogre split up and escape. When Banshee returns to his concealed capsule, he discovers that the ogre has lost Professor Xavier. After quarreling, the villains hatch a plan to make a second assault on the X-Men. Realizing their enemies will return for their prize, namely him, Professor Xavier leads his X-Men through a series of preparations. With powerful ear shields blocking their hearing, the Professor will communicate with the team through telepathy. Soon, Cerebro warns of the approach of Banshee, who knows he must prevail, or else. Having slowed Banshee down enough to hit him, the X-Men disable their foe with a gas pellet. Before he can revive, Banshee is put into a pressure suit and sealed in a vacuum chamber, rendering his mutant power useless. His vacuum chamber shattered after the X-Men's fight with the ogre. Banshee is free again, only this time he poses no threat to the X-Men. He reveals to the relieved mutants that he was forced to fight them because of a headband laced with explosives and locked on him by the ogre. Now the headband is ruined and he is a free man once again. Howling winds carry the goddess Aurora into the African skies, where she is at home among the elements. Soon the raging sky rains down upon the croplands below, and Ororo lands to find not only joyful tribespeople, but also the enigmatic presence of Professor Xavier, who brings to Ororo an offer. Piercing the veil of fantasy inherent in Ororo's life in Africa, Professor Xavier offers her a chance to come into a different world. Sensing the sincerity in his words, she accepts. Professor Xavier's travels next take him on to Japan, where he recruits the powerful mutant known as Sunfire, and then on to a farming collective in Siberia. The X-Men in The Coming of Sunfire. High atop a building in Manhattan, a mysterious figure looks down with contempt on the citizens below. Soon they shall know the ominous tread of Sunfire. Using their cerebral mutant sensing device, the Beast, Angel, and Iceman register the signal of an unknown mutant in Manhattan. Looking at the data fed back by the computer, Beast fears this may be the most powerful mutant the X-Men have yet encountered. Sunfire observes a ceremony in the central plaza of the United Nations. Speaking is Saburo Yoshida, one of Japan's greatest statesmen. Though he is beloved by the crowds, Yoshida is held in very vocal contempt by the dangerously powerful Sunfire, who feels it is his time to act. High in the skies, Angel does battle with Sunfire. A fiery blast from the flaming mutant singes Angel's wings, setting him up for the final blow. Only the sudden intervention of Iceman saves his partner, who nonetheless drops out of the sky with frosted wings. Nothing can turn Sunfire away from taking his vengeance out on the building. Nothing except the X-Men. The uncanny telekinesis of Marvel Girl lifts Cyclops onto the building's dome. As Sunfire's solar blast lances out, it is met by a sudden counterblast. Matching his foe blast for blast, Cyclops makes a last-ditch attempt to grab Sunfire. The flaming mutant manages to shake him off, but Marvel Girl breaks Cyclops' fall. With him out of the way, nothing stands between Sunfire and the utter destruction of the building. Much to the young man's surprise, Saburo Yoshida attempts to dissuade his son, Sunfire, placing his own life in danger. Before the young mutant can choose between his father and his hatred for America, his uncle Tomo shoots Saburo. Enraged, Sunfire uses his mutant fire powers to kill Tomo. Sunfire rushes to the side of his wounded father, throwing off his mask. With his last breath, Saburo Yoshida urges his son to live for the future, to forge the tools of peace, and then he is gone. The X-Men leave the grieving young man and wonder if there isn't something they could have done for Sunfire, or maybe the next angry young man just like him. When a runaway tractor threatens a small child playing in its path, simple farmer Peter Rasputin undergoes a startling transformation. With a crackling release of energy, the young man becomes an armored colossus, unflinchingly positioning himself between the child and the tractor.
Life was hard, but we were a family.
Pagodrizi! Ito traktor!
Iliana!
Hurtling tractor collides with the armored form of Peter Rasputin and is demolished, leaving the young man and the girl he protects unharmed. As the dust clears, Peter is approached by Professor Xavier, who offers him a chance to use his abilities for the good of all the world. The young man can hardly refuse, and soon bids his family and friends goodbye. Arizona, on an Apache reservation, John Proudstar chases a fleet bison across the desert, as he dreams of the time when his people were proud warriors. With a superhuman effort, Proudstar wrestles the bison to the ground, satisfied that there is still a man among the Apache. John Proudstar is startled to find Professor Xavier sitting behind him in the middle of the Arizona desert. Xavier reveals to Proudstar that he is a mutant and offers him a chance to join him. The hot-tempered Apache refuses, but is soon shamed into joining Xavier, who secretly wonders if his new X-Men will be equal to the task that lies ahead for them. Chapter 2. And then there was one. At Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters in Westchester, New York, a new team of X-Men assemble for the first time. Each has telepathically learned English and been given a costume fashioned from amazing, unstable molecules. Alone in the study of an exclusive private school in New York's Westchester County, an enigmatic figure sits silently brooding. Suddenly, his meditation comes to an end, and with a powerful telepathic thought, he calls his students to attendance. In a moment they are assembled. The Angel, Iceman, the Beast, and Cyclops. The Uncanny X-Men. In the X-Men's Danger Room training ground, the Angel is put through his paces by Professor Xavier. The winged mutant deftly avoids a flame jet and a pair of battering rams, and then navigates the whirling spanner without a slip. A sudden concussion blast catches him unaware, but under the watchful eye of his teacher, He recovers and comes to a hovering stop in midair. Iceman, the youngest member of the team, is given a few free moments to play snowman. When the youth least expects it, the beast hurls a heavy ball his way. With his mastery of cold, Iceman swiftly forms an ice shield to boomerang the ball back at his partner. Increasing the intensity of his optic blast, Cyclops shatters the Iceman's frozen shield. A general melee erupts as the other X-Men try to subdue him. When he believes the ruckus has gone on long enough, Professor Xavier breaks it up with a sharp mental command and announces the imminent arrival of a new pupil. The excited X-Men watch the approach of the new addition to their school, an attractive young woman. The mutants wonder what her extraordinary power can be. Once inside, Jean Grey is introduced to her new classmates by Professor Xavier, who declares that her code name shall be Marvel Girl. The attentive X-Men crowd around Marvel Girl, questioning her about her powers. Suddenly, the young woman whisks a chair across the room with the force of her own mind. Professor Xavier bids Marvel Girl to further demonstrate, and she easily levitates a book with her incredible telekinetic abilities. Among the new X-Men, Sunfire is the most impatient to learn why they have been brought together. The one man who can best answer that question finally arrives, Scott Summers, better known as Cyclops. The crisis, he reveals, is a dire one. The X-Men have disappeared. Angel, Iceman, Marvel Girl, Lorna Dane, Havoc, and Cyclops were present when Professor Xavier's cerebral mutant detector registered a potent new signal on the island of Krakoa in the South Pacific. The professor dispatched the X-Men in their stratojet to investigate. The island of Krakoa, source of a powerful new mutant presence, seemed benign to the arriving X-Men, but they didn't get far from their stratojet before running into trouble. Cyclops admits he never even saw what hit him before blacking out. After the attack on Krakoa, Cyclops awoke alone and disoriented. To his shock, he was back on the stratojet. His visor was gone, as were his optic blasts. Autopilot brought him back to Professor Xavier's school, where he admitted to the professor that he had no idea of the fate of his fellow X-Men. Cyclops' missing optic blast suddenly returned, blasting out of control, until Professor Xavier managed to fashion an improved visor to contain them. While Cyclops trained, the professor decided to assemble a new team of mutants to go back to Krakoa and find the villainous mutant that defeated his X-Men. With the purpose of the new X-Men finally revealed, Sunfire angrily asserts that he will not risk his life to save his fellow mutants. So, the stratojet races skyward with one empty seat. But soon Sunfire rejoins the group, for his own inscrutable reasons. Together again, the new X-Men prepare for battle. Chapter 3: Assault Force. Now called by their code names, the new X-Men, Storm, Colossus, Banshee, Wolverine, Sunfire, Nightcrawler, and Thunderbird drop down to the island of Krakoa, ready to face its mutant menace. With the team safely on the ground, Cyclops and Thunderbird land in the Stratojet. All seems quiet as they step out into the jungle, but when Cyclops turns to get something from the jet, he is shocked to see that it has completely disappeared. The mysteries of the island of Krakoa deepen. As quickly as the X-Men Stratojet disappeared, so too has a stone temple appeared in the distance. As Cyclops and Thunderbird go to investigate, they are attacked by a plant with deadly strangler vines. Putting their powers to good use, they defeat the plant and reach the temple unscathed. Making their way through the underbrush, Wolverine and Banshee come face to face with giant killer crabs. While the crab's claws are deadly, Wolverine's prove deadlier still. No less effective is Banshee's sonic scream. Soon the duo meet their comrades near the stone temple. On their way to the island's stone temple, Storm and Colossus face a peculiar kind of avalanche, one that changes directions to follow its victims. Using a tree trunk as a bat, Colossus scatters the rocks and Storm sweeps them out to sea with the winds at her command. They reach the temple in no time. Gathered at the gates of the mysterious ruined temple of Krakoa, the new X-Men search for a way past the massive stone door. Finally realizing the direct approach is best, they shatter the portal with pure brute force. None of them is prepared for the terrible sight which meets them on the other side. It is the original X-Men, and something appears to be feeding on them. As the horrified X-Men pull their counterparts free, the temple begins to shake apart. Outside, a slowly recovering Angel exclaims that Cyclops shouldn't have come back for them. There isn't a mutant on the island. The mutant is the island. Chapter 4. Krakoa, the island that walks like a man. Looming before the startled mutants is Krakoa, a living island. Images of Krakoa's birth in the atomic fire of a nuclear test fill their minds, as does the hunger of Krakoa, who needs mutants to feed on. Having revealed its plan to use Cyclops and Professor Xavier to bring him more mutants to feed on, Krakoa lashes out at the assembled X-Men with beams of pure energy from his eyes. Scattering, the X-Men each try to injure the massive mutant island, to little effect. A mutant battle royal rages as two groups of X-Men concentrate the full fury of their powers on the rampaging island of Krakoa. In the heat of battle, a new combatant enters the fray. Professor Xavier telepathically communicates his plan of attack to Cyclops and then lashes out at Krakoa with all the power of his amazing mutant mind. The battle seethes all around the island of Krakoa. While Professor Xavier keeps the island's intellect busy, Storm summons the electrical energy of the elements and transmits that power to Lorna Dane. As prodigious amounts of current flow through the young woman, Havoc and Cyclops fear it may be too much for her. Even as the X-Men marshal great energies, Krakoa is revitalized by the rain that Storm's tempest has whipped up. The mass mutant mind becomes too much for Professor Xavier, who has to break his mental lock. Meanwhile, Lorna Dane is lost in a tower of sheer magnetic power, into which Cyclops, Storm, and Havoc add their energies in a sudden blast. Combined power of Storm, Cyclops, and Havoc is added to the magnetic might of Lorna Dane, which erupts downward into the very molten center of the Earth. Krakoa is staggered by the effects of the X-Men's attack, and while he reels, both teams flee the island aboard a frozen raft created by Iceman. The X-Men power their fragile life raft away from the island of Krakoa as fast as possible. Behind them, the results of Lorna Dane's energy bolt become fully apparent at last. The very magnetic field of the planet has been severed, and gravity around the island ceases to exist, hurling Krakoa into space. Into the whirlpool, caused by the sudden departure of Krakoa, tumbles the covered raft sheltering the X-Men. Eventually, the seething waters become calm, and the mutants emerge to find their airtight stratojet has survived the cataclysm as well. In no time, the mutants are winging their way home, left with just one question: what to do with 13 X-Men?
sorry, it was an accident.
Mutant freak! Get out of here!
Whoa now. Where's the fire?
I'm sorry, Dr. Prescott.
Here now. You boys stop picking on him.
He wrecked our ball! He's a freak!
You know it's not his fault. He's like the rest of you. He doesn't have anybody. Now get another ball and get back to your game.
They hate me.
Hate is an awfully strong word, Scott. They're just afraid of anyone who's different. But they'll learn. Now come on.
Unlike most mutants, my condition was obvious from the moment I was born. The villagers drove my mother away for burying such a freak. I never even knew her name. She abandoned me, but I did not die. Instead, I was found by a family of traveling performers. I became Nightcrawler, the star attraction of their little circus. For their freakish world, I was perfect. But when the spotlight went out, I was still an outcast, shunned and hated.
Dr. Cornelius. How is our patient?
Could be better, Professor. He put up some resistance when our boys picked him up last night.
Is he damaged?
Nothing serious.
Then begin the adamantium feed.
Feed initiated. Steady. Cardiotac higher than expected. Suffusion enacting. Cardiotac rising. Incredible. The feed is impeded. He's resisting, sir.
Adjust the feed accordingly.
Adamantium feed is compensating, but I've never seen anything like this.
It appears we chose well, Cornelius.
Adamantium reservoirs drained, sir. Absorption process completely.
And our dear Logan?
Why not ask him yourself?
A splendid idea. Logan, can you hear me? I shall take that as a yes. You really should be proud, you know. You are the first. Your skeleton has been infused with a rare metal called adamantium. Fascinating substance, virtually indestructible. Your bones should now be unbreakable. In return, we hope to make use of your gift. So, you have nothing to say? Hands itching. Why, what have you done to... Extraordinary. I never imagined. Quickly, Cornelius, increase the sedative drip before... No! Security! Security, help me!
Look.
Welcome. I cannot say I'm happy you four are here. Your presence indicates that you have discovered the truth about your memory therapy. The conditioning has failed. When you opened the door, a fail-safe program was activated, codenamed Talos, which will see to your capture and reprogramming. Uncontrolled, with your true memories returning, you are a threat to our operations.
Looks like we'll get a little action this trip after all.
Hold it, Cree. Let's find out what we're up against. Maverick, scan the area. Blue Boy, get those doors open.
My name is Mr. McCoy, madam, not Blue Boy.
I've got the massive power surge right below us.
I am Talos. You ought to be reprogrammed. If you resist, I will terminate you.
Another tin can with an attitude.
Maverick, give Sabretooth a blaster.
You got it.
Keep the robot busy while Wolverine attacks.
Unit in capture mode.
If you tough guys have a plan, this will be a real good time to use it. I'm getting too old for this.
Weaponry at stud level.
Done, sorry, pal. I play for keeps.
Power source is buried pretty deep. We'd have to get a thermite grenade right next to it, inside the armor.
I'll dig the hole. You plant the seed.
Unit structurally compromised. End capture mode. He's no son of mine.
Thanks, Mr. McCoy.
Now, Maverick, do it!
Fire in the hole!
Maverick! Nice suit.
Thanks. I refer you to my tailor.
How's that door coming, Hank?
I believe
Well, looky here. I got me a new ashtray.